Welcome to the Your Business on Purpose podcast, the ultimate resource for women business owners looking to confidently navigate their entrepreneurial journey while upholding their principles. I'm Dawnette Palmore, your host and fellow entrepreneur. Join me as we immerse ourselves in illuminating conversations with accomplished experts spanning various fields across the business spectrum. Together, we'll unearth strategic insights into seizing opportunities and ensuring that your business is equipped with the essential elements aligned with your purpose and values. Welcome back to Your Business on Purpose podcast. I am your host, Dawnette Palmore, your profit and protection fractional CFO, money coach, and insurance strategist. Today, we're going to talk about another difficult topic, but I want to ask you a question that most business owners, or actually anybody in general, never really stop to consider. I don't think we stop and think about this particular topic or really that often or often enough. Again, I think it's one of those things we let pass through, but we never get into the meat of. So the question is, what happens when the money stops? Not forever, not necessarily because your business fails, but what happens if revenue slows down? What happens if your biggest client leaves? What happens when the economy shifts? What happens when AI changes your industry? What happens when people stop buying? What happens if you can't work for a period of time? Most of us spend years really focused on growth, right? How can we grow more? How can we get more? How can we have more impact, more clients, more sales, more visibility, more revenue? But very few of us spend time preparing for disruption. And that's a problem. Right? When you think about it, it's a problem because every single business faces challenges. It's the ebbs and flows of business. It's the ebbs and flows of life, right? Every business will face some type of uncertainty. We live in an uncertain world. It doesn't matter where you live, where you move to, what you do, everything is uncertain. We have no idea what tomorrow holds. But that doesn't mean we can't prepare for uncertainty, okay? So I don't want to bring doom and gloom. I want to bring awareness and then what we can do to not fix the uncertainty, but what we can do to combat it. So the question is not whether challenges will happen. The question is, will you be prepared when they do? Or are you prepared when they do? So I want to share with you what I call the business survival framework. These are the 5 things every business owner should have in place long before we need them. So I hope you listen to this episode and it really makes you think about the future, because I don't think we think about it enough. When we think about good things, we don't think about what we need to plan for. We don't think about, or we don't plan for what could happen or probably will happen, which is uncertainty. We have no idea what's going to happen. If you listen to episode 206, I told my story about the uncertainty, the change, I should say, in the market of the business we were in. We had a really quick, because I want to go listen to 206. We had an appraisal business for car damage, making $500,000 to $750,000 a year. Within about 9 months, it was gone. So go listen to that. We had a short warning that the market was changing, but we didn't prepare for it. We did not prepare for it. So these are the 5 strategies every business owner should have in place. Again, long before we need them. So step 1 is know your break-even number, or I like to say, know what your business costs to run, right? So how much money does your business need every month just to stay open? If nothing came in, if you got no sales, no clients, no customers, your business is still going to cost you something, right? You got to keep the lights on, subscriptions, whatever it might be. What is that number? And this isn't our revenue goal. It's not our dream number. It's our break-even number, right? What do we need to have? What's going to keep us open? This is also, I also need to make this, well, let me say this. This amount is going to be what it requires to cover your payroll, your rent, your subscriptions, your marketing, your insurance, taxes, contractors, utilities, paying yourself, and all of the other expenses required to keep your business running. So you're going to have to go kind of and do some work if you don't already have this figured out. Or you could pull a report if you're doing like a QuickBooks or some kind of accounting software. And really, you would be amazed at how many business owners don't know this number. We know what we want to make. And I'm throwing myself in the mix because I'm a business owner too. And this is, I've gone through all of this. We know what we want to make most of the time. Sometimes we don't, but we know we kind of have a general number, right? But we don't know what it costs to operate, to keep our doors open, to do the things that we're doing. So when revenue starts slowing down, the lack of clarity creates fear. Are we going to have enough to do this, to do that? Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Oh man, oh, right? But when we don't know our numbers, every decision feels so emotional because it's fear driven. It's fear is an emotion. It's driven by what hasn't happened. Fear is something that hasn't happened yet, right? We're just contemplating that it might happen. And we go into this fear mode of something bad that could be happening. But when we know our numbers, we can actually make a more strategic decision. Because again, we can come from a place of logic and not emotion or reaction. We can actually respond strategically, right? Clarity creates confidence. If you don't know your break-even number, I challenge you to go figure it out, to go find out what it is. Figure out exactly what it costs to keep the lights on, as they would say. Okay, so the second one is going to be build a hills and valley fund. Now, if you go listen to episode 206, you will hear my story again about what happens when we don't have a hills and valley fund. One of a big mistake is that entrepreneurs make is treating variable income like a paycheck. So entrepreneurship business has seasons, right? We have peaks, we have valleys, we have our ups, we have our downs, we have our ebbs and our flows, whatever it is you want to call it. The problem is that many business owners spend peak season money and then panic when the valley arrives. So that's why I have my clients create a hills and valley fund, because it's the ebbs and flows of business. We need to have this fund so that we can close the gap, so we could build the bridge. So when we're in the valley, it doesn't feel like we're in the valley because we've created this cushion when we were on the hill so that it evens it out. So this is money specifically set aside to help smooth out income fluctuations. Not the same thing as an emergency fund. An emergency fund is for unexpected events or circumstances. The ebbs and flows in business are not unexpected. Now, we may not know exactly when they're coming. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but we need to be prepared for them. So this is not our tax account. It's not our profit account. It's money specifically designed to help you navigate through slower seasons without stress and desperation, okay? Because when we're desperate, we don't make the best decisions. I know that I don't, and I haven't seen many people that do, because again, we are making decisions based off an emotion and not logic. So sometimes it might look like you discount your service. You take clients you shouldn't take. They end up costing you more money, more stress, more emotional toll than it's worth. Sometimes we might say yes to something when we really should have said no. And that's really not how you build a successful business, right? Successful businesses are built from confidence, not from panic. The third thing is to reduce revenue concentration risks. So here's a question, since we've been talking about uncomfortable things. What percentage of your revenue comes from your largest client? If you're not sure, again, I'm going to say go figure that out, go find out what that is. What about your top 3 clients? And if you're losing one client, if you lost a client, would it create a financial crisis? Because if it did, that's not stability. That's dependency. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have great clients, because we all strive to have great clients, right? I'm just saying we need to understand the risk in all of that. And I can tell you that in my appraisal business, we banked everything on one client. One client took our business down. It demolished it. So again, you could look healthy. A lot of businesses look healthy because they have one major client, but then that client leaves and suddenly everything changes. Diversification isn't just for investments. It's also important in business. That's why we have to think about whatever kind of business how can we create multiple streams of revenue within that business? Because the more dependent we are on one source of revenue, the more vulnerable our business becomes to collapse. I'm thinking about a client I have that's as a notary business, and we're coming up with ways that they can create other streams of revenue in that business, because that's one of the most, what I want to say, lines of work businesses that have huge ebbs and flows, right? Huge ebbs and flows. And talk about not really knowing when those ebbs and flows are going to go. I mean, we're in that state because of the last 5 or 6 years of what's been going on with real estate. But anyways, now we're on step 4. Step 4 is to build a protection team, or you have heard me call them wealth advisors, right? So a big myth in entrepreneurship is that successful business owners do everything themselves. And the reality is most successful business owners build teams because we can't do it all ourselves. So not just employee teams, right? But there's advisory teams, people who help us make better decisions, people who help us avoid costly mistakes, people who see our blind spots. Our wealth advisors or protection team could include or should include a CPA, a bookkeeper, a fractional CFO, or a full-time CFO, attorneys, insurance professionals, financial professionals, because we cannot possibly know everything. And we don't need to know everything. But we do need people around us who can help guide us when challenges arise, right? The cost of good advice is almost less expensive than the cost of fixing preventable mistakes. Think about that one for just a moment. The cost of good advice is always less expensive than the cost of fixing preventable mistakes. Wow. Okay, number 5. Stress test your business. So this could be one of the most important exercises that you do. I want you to imagine a few scenarios, okay? What happens if your revenue drops by 25%? What happens if it drops by 50%? What happens if your largest client leaves? What happens if you can't work for 90 days? What happens if your expenses increase unexpectedly? What happens if the economy shifts and your customers stop spending? Would you know exactly what to do? Or would you be making decisions in real time while under pressure, as sometimes we do, most times we do? The best time to create a plan is before we ever need one, not during the crisis, but way before it happens. Businesses that survive difficult seasons aren't always the smartest businesses. They aren't always the biggest businesses. I mean, think about this. When we think, oh, a big business can't ever fold, but think, okay, what happened to Sears, Toys R Us? I'm trying to think about what else these big, huge companies that have been around a long, long time folded because they didn't have a plan before the crisis hit, before the market shift, before things changed. Right? I don't know what happened to Sears because they did have a plan when it went from catalog to store, but that's beyond me right now. I'm just saying it doesn't matter the size of business you have. It could happen. And it's not always businesses that are generating the most revenue. Often they're simply the businesses that have prepared, that have a plan, that put a plan in way before these types of things have happened. And that's what I want for you. So I want to leave you with this. Businesses don't struggle because challenges happen. Challenges happen to every single business, as we've discussed. Business struggles because they weren't prepared for the challenges before it arrived. The strongest business owners aren't the ones who never experienced difficult seasons, right? Difficulty is what actually makes us strong. They're the ones who build systems, reserves, relationships, and plans before those seasons arrive or before they arrive. That's what is going to make us stronger, is learning from other people's experience and getting those experts around us and building things before it happens. So I want to encourage you and I want to challenge you this week. If your revenue, to think about this, okay? Journal about it, write about it, I don't know, something. But if my revenue drops or dropped by 50% tomorrow, what would I do? If you don't have the answer, that's where the work begins, right? If you like help, I should say, if you don't like help, if you would like help understanding your numbers, creating a stronger cash flow strategy, building reserves, or developing a plan that helps your business weather uncertainty, I'd love to have a conversation with you, because building a business on purpose isn't just about growth. It's about creating stability, confidence, and freedom no matter what challenges come our way. So until next time, remember that money on purpose creates a life on purpose. And that's what building a business on purpose is all about. This podcast is dedicated to you and all the incredible women out there breaking chains, pushing through, and striving to make it all work. Your support truly means the world to me. Could you do me a favor? Be a gem and leave a review. It will help us reach even more women, making a bigger impact. Your feedback is invaluable, and I would genuinely appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, ensuring you never miss an episode. Until next week, live a purposeful life in both your business and your finances.